So if I gave you $10 trillion, how would you spend it? I mean, you can't buy an island or whatever. How would you allocate it in terms of improving the big model versus maybe paying for HF in the RLHF?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of these secrets and details about training these large models that I just don't know and are only privy to the large labs. And the issue is I would waste a lot of that money if I even attempted this because I wouldn't know those things. Suspending a lot of disbelief and assuming like you had the know-how, and operate, or if you're saying like you have to operate with like the limited information you have now.
No. Actually, I would say you swoop in and you get all the information, all the little heuristics, all the little parameters, all the parameters that define how the thing is trained.
Mm-hmm.
If we look in how to invest money for the next 5 years in terms of maximizing what you called raw intelligence.
I mean, isn't the answer like really simple? You just try to get as much compute as possible. Like at the end of the day, all you need to buy is the GPUs, and then sort of the researchers can find all like they can sort of you can tune whether you want to pre-train a big model or a small model. Like,
well, this gets into the question of like, are you really limited by compute and money, or are you limited by these other things? And
like, I'm more privy to Arvid's belief that we're sort of idea limited, but there's always the, like.
But if you have a lot of compute, you can run a lot of experiments.
So you would run a lot of experiments versus like use that compute to train a gigantic model.
I would, but I do believe that we are limited in terms of the ideas that we have.
I think, yeah, because even with all this compute and like, all the data you could collect in the world, I think you really are ultimately limited by not even ideas, but just like really good engineering. Like even with all the capital in the world, would you really be able to assemble, like there aren't that many people in the world who really can like make the difference here. And there's so much work that goes into research that is just like pure, really, really hard engineering work. As like a very kind of hand-wavy example, if you look at the original Transformer paper, how much work was kind of joining together a lot of these really interesting concepts embedded in the literature versus then going in and writing all the code, like maybe the CUDA kernels, maybe whatever else. I don't know if it ran on GPUs or TPUs originally, such that it actually saturated the GPU performance, right? Getting GNOME Shazir to go in and do all of this code, right? And GNOME is like probably one of the best engineers in the world. Or maybe going a step further, like the next generation of models, having these things, like getting model parallelism to work and scaling it on like, thousands of, or maybe tens of thousands of like V100s, which I think GPT-3 may have been. There's just so much engineering effort that has to go into all of these things to make it work. If you really brought that cost down to like, maybe not zero, but just made it 10x easier, made it super easy for someone with really fantastic ideas to immediately get to the version of like the new architecture they dreamed up that is like getting 50-40% utilization on the GPUs. I think that would just speed up research by a ton.
I mean, I think if you see a clear path to improvement, you should always sort of take the low-hanging fruit first, right? And I think probably OpenAI and all the other labs that did the right thing to pick off the low-hanging fruit, where the low-hanging fruit is like sort of you could scale up to a GPT 4.25 scale, and you just keep scaling and like things keep getting better, and as long as like there's no point of experimenting with new ideas when like everything is working, and you should sort of bang on it and try to get as much juice out of it possible, and then maybe when you really need new ideas for, I think if you're spending $10 trillion, you probably want to spend some then actually like reevaluate your ideas. Like probably your idea limited at that point.
I think all of us believe new ideas are probably needed to get all the way there to AGI, and all of us also probably believe there exist ways of testing out those ideas at smaller scales, and being fairly confident that they'll play out. It's just quite difficult for the labs in their current position to dedicate their very limited research and engineering talent to exploring all these other ideas when there's like this core thing that will probably like improve performance for some like decent amount of time.
Yeah, but also these big labs like winning. So they're just going wild. Okay.